6:02, we'll reopen our work session of December 1st, 2015. Welcome everybody that's here. We have one item to continue. It's a continuation of the hearing on ordinance, gosh darn it, ordinance number, help me out here, 112, matter opting out and referring matter to general election. This is for Lake County. This does not encompass the town of Lakeview or the city of Paisley. They have their own option to opt out or not. The town of Lakeview has done their own ordinance, which does allow for marijuana. So that is not a topic for today. And the topic is not whether it's legal or not. We know it's legal.
As far as recreation goes.
As far as recreation goes. This is about whether we refer this to our ordinance to the voters in November 16 general election, or total opt-out, or not.
And so, Commissioner, with that said, I'll just add one other thought here, and I don't know if you two commissioners were hearing the same thing in today's, or this morning's testimony by a couple of folks. And I didn't really catch it to begin with, but after the meeting, as I was thinking about it, there was some referencing about this not being about medical marijuana, this opt-out, and it definitely is about medical marijuana as well as recreation. And just think we need to make sure that's once again on the record.
Okay, thank you.
Basically, if you go through that sequence A through F, it's inclusive of all those. If you may want to read those off, Commissioner.
Yeah.
On the first page.
Let me get to the ordinance. I don't have it right in front of me.
If you want, I'll read them.
If you want to read them off, that'd be fine with me.
Okay, these are the items that would be prohibited within Lake County if we were to pass ordinance number 112, medical marijuana processing sites registered under Oregon law, medical marijuana dispensaries registered under Oregon law, medical or marijuana producers licensed under Oregon law, marijuana processors licensed under Oregon law, marijuana wholesalers licensed under Oregon law, marijuana retailers licensed under Oregon law.
So by the way that reads, if the ordinance, if people vote to pass this ordinance, all 6 of those will be prohibited. Of course, it's voting to allow one and not the other, so it'll be a full ban.
Yep.
Okay, with that, I have at least 2 people that have, 3 now, that have brought in before we have other public testimony. Teresa Decker called. She has a conflict tonight. She's not able to make it here. Where she really stands is that she wanted this on record, is she believes that we should totally opt out. That is not what the ordinance is referring to the voters. Appreciate her opinion there, but she does also, she wanted to make sure that we knew that she supported to send it to the voters for the opt-out. So she wanted, maybe not articulating that exactly right, but personal views are total opt-out, but she also supports going to the vote of the people. The other one was contact with Denise, Mary Anderson, and I believe it was in support of ordinance going forward and going to the vote of the people.
Correct. She also is in favor of complete opt-out, but since that's not an option, ordinance, she is in favor of it.
Can we, just for the sake of clarification, can we clarify, this ordinance is completely opting out,
yes,
but we are referring it to a vote as opposed to we make the decision as a board not to go to a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Because we are essentially for 11 months totally opting out if we pass this ordinance.
All things will be prohibited until the election and then determined by the election.
Right.
Very good point. The third one that I have, the lady just stopped in, signed Savannah, has a letter, have not read it yet, bring that into part of the record.
Commissioner, before you go, I also received a phone call this afternoon from a resident in Christmas Valley. Her name is Liz Ewell, and they're, by reference of who the family is, they were the original builders of the dinner tree. They don't reside up there anymore, they live closer to Christmas Valley. And she was emphatic that she wanted no marijuana whatsoever in this county, and we had, of course, the discussion on it's legal and so on and so forth, but she was very emphatic.
Okay. One that I missed, which has already testified, may testify again, if we did receive written document from Mike Getty also, that needs to be part of the record. Yeah, did you receive one, Ken? Okay. We have copies. Did you have another copy, Mike?
There was 4.
Oh, I do have a copy of this.
Okay, so you have a copy of the signature?
I have that.
Thank you.
I did have a phone call today, it did not pertain to this. It was more along the line of, she heard about a pot dealership or something down at the industrial site. Did not refer to the location, but I assume that that's my farming place, or the 42nd group, I assume it's bought from Minnesota. So it is in county, but I went to the town and there was been an application to annex it into the town.
It's within the urban growth boundary and by the rules and the policies, ordinance, I guess you'd call it, with the town is if they have water and sewer, then irrevocable consent to annexation, so it's part of a process.
She didn't really address the ordinance number 112, but since I did receive it, it's related.
Okay.
In opinion.
Pro or con, support or
Against
against? Okay.
that establishment.
Okay. All right, with that, I think we've covered the phone calls and the written documentation we received. We will continue this hearing tomorrow at, in Paisley at 3:10, and then at 6 p.m. also. So with that said, if there's anybody here that would like to testify, we have one person in the audience at this time. You testified earlier, Mike. You're more than welcome to take another 3 minutes if you'd like.
You mean, read what I've already given you? You want it in?
Not really, but if you have something to add in addition.
Well, okay.
Mike, I'm gonna ask you a quick question. You had some really good points in your testimony this morning, and you made the comment you lost your train of thought. Did you remember what that was that you wanted to share? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Do we want to time him?
I don't think we need to.
There's not a line behind him, I think.
I think it was more on the line that if marijuana is legalized and we have pot shops downtown and that kind of stuff, or throughout the county, we're gonna have school children who are gonna be exposed to those businesses. And we can't do much now about the private individual use and growth of the marijuana plant in the home. But after 28 years of being a business manager and knowing that our school district here taught our children to stay away from drugs, because of Measure 91 now, these students are going to go home, and in the house are going to be marijuana plants. Or they'll go visit their friends, and their friends' parents will be growing marijuana or even smoking it in front of these kids. And it's hypocritical. It's you know, we teach them one thing, and then they see all these adults doing another, and they're going to be thoroughly confused. And in my comments here, I've shown you some examples of Colorado experienced a spike in teenage use, and the UN Council on Drug and Crimes did a study quite some time ago, between 2000 and 2008, that showed that there was sizable number of young children from 12 to 18 years old that were seeking treatment for cannabis abuse. And that more than half of them, I believe 57%, were referred to treatment by the criminal justice system, by a court. So obviously they were getting in trouble. And another thing too is, in here, I expressed that the abuse, long-term use of cannabis can affect a child's mind. It's their growth. It can lower IQ. It can cause short-term memory loss and the ability to learn and all kinds of things, you know. Even a psychosis disease of schizophrenia. We just don't need that. And I've also, I visit my son once in a while in Lebanon. He lives in an apartment complex. And I take my little dog with me and we take him out for a walk. And you'd be surprised how many young men and women are smoking cigarettes. There's always, you know, like a half a dozen or so people outside the apartment complex smoking cigarettes. And, you know, tobacco is bad enough as it is, and alcohol too, but then we want to confuse our children with the use of marijuana. It's just beyond my thought of reason.
So can I ask you a quick question? You mentioned when you first started this about, you were referencing downtown here, the retail outlets.
Yeah.
And it's not passing the buck, but how do we deal with that? Because it's not a county decision, that is a town decision.
I think that's something that the community, including myself, need to pressure the town council into changing their mind, or initiating what they call an initiative petition, and getting at least 10% of the registered voters within the town limits to force an initiative and enforce a vote by the people.
And you're aware that the 27th of December is the last day for counties and municipalities to make a decision on this. Then if there isn't one, it moves forward as if there are no holds barred.
Yeah, but I think, doesn't it also allow an initiative petition? But it has to be like 180 days before the general election.
You're correct on that. Counties that didn't receive 55% in opposition to legalization have that option, and at least Deschutes County, I know, is looking at doing that.
You know, maybe not this year, but the next year.
Yeah, I just,
You know,
yeah.
and then the sparks will fly, because by then 42nd group will be established, and you know, it's going to be a nightmare. But, and another thing I probably wanted to point out was the rate of accidents and death fatalities due to marijuana drivers. And also the IRS section 280E that taxes the heck out of marijuana producers and processors and retailers. They pay a very, very stiff tax. And it's in there, you know, like a normal business that can deduct business expenses may pay up to like 30% for their net income. But under federal law, and this is happening in Colorado, the IRS is enforcing section 280E, and those people are paying as high as 70% on their gross income. They cannot deduct business expenses related to their business, their marijuana business. That just drives the cost up dramatically. And I don't know if this is anywhere accurate. I got this off online, and this is what they call a weed state card. It explains what you can and cannot do. But the state is proposing, or I don't know if it's true or whether this is accurate, that $40 per ounce tax on flower, marijuana flowers, $10 per ounce for leaves, and $5 per young plant. And I'm assuming that's on an annual basis, just like the assessor goes down and assesses the value of your property. That then you add that to local taxes, which are right now up in the air because of the lawsuit. You know, the cost of growing and retailing this marijuana is astronomically high. In fact, I just read on the internet that one producer in California had to pay a $275,000 tax, and it nearly broke him because he was not aware of Section 280E. But bottom line is, my point is, that with all these taxes being applied to the marijuana industry, the black market is going to thrive. It's going to be there because they can undersell their retailers, and it'll always be there for the underage, the kids that can't legally buy it. And then that's another thing too, is this individual growing and stuff. What I'm afraid of is that children are going to be curious, and through peer pressure and curiosity, they're going to steal some of that plant and experiment with it. And it may be that one family's children might steal some of the product from their parents and go out and give it to other kids or sell it to other kids. And because, you know, like in Portland, it's $70 per quarter ounce. I don't know how much a quarter ounce, how many cigarettes or tokes or whatever you call them, can be made out of a quarter ounce of marijuana.
How many joints?
Joints, yeah, there you go.
If I remember back in my college days.
I don't know how many joints can be made out of a quarter ounce of marijuana. But when you start paying that much money, and I'm not saying it'll be that expensive here, because in Portland, of course, you know, it's more expensive to live there. There's going to be people that are out of work or on welfare, don't have the money, pay for the retail price, and so they're going to drop back to the black market or grow their own. And to me, I just can't see giving up our morals, our values, and the heritage of this county for a drug culture. It's just beyond my reasoning. And another aspect too is, you know, like, everybody's saying, well, it's legal now, it's legal. Well, no, not technically, it's not legal. Not under federal law. And another thing too is the federal government can all of a sudden come down on at least, you know, Colorado, Washington, and Oregon and say, hey, we're going to enforce the federal law. And that will disrupt a lot of businesses and families and
Be somewhat self-regulating from within.
you know, it's,
Well, it needs to be clearly stated, we've said it many times, but if that were to happen, we all realize it could happen. A lot of people say, no way, it'll happen, but if it happened, and it could, it would disrupt the operations of this county government if the federal government chose to do so by making it so they were going to enforce the illegalness of it from a federal standpoint. Who knows what they might do to counties or municipalities or any entities that receive federal funding.
yeah, in this lawsuit that's been filed by an outfit up in Northwest Oregon, there was an editorial I read where Lapine, I guess, is taxing medical marijuana. And the editorial said, don't spend that money because you may have to give it back. And I'm afraid that the town council's gonna find that out too, if that lawsuit is the judgment of that lawsuit says, yeah, we can't tax medical marijuana, the town council might find itself in a heck of a predicament, have to come up with money to repay it.
It would be wise to, if they tax it, to put it into a reserve for that very reason.
And then,
So Mike, I believe from earlier, just being that the hearing is on opting out or not, once again, you're in support of us putting this out to the vote of the people in the election in November. Just want to get you up here during the hearing process to make sure that that statement is.
yeah, I'm full support of county ordinance number 112. Now, I'm not against medical marijuana, but I believe that should be tightly controlled by the state, distributed by the state, and issued through licensed pharmacy. That way, the effectiveness of that drug and the quality of that drug can be more or less assured for the patients that have to use it.
I think that's not gonna, the pharmacy, I haven't read up on the Oregon Health Authority, they're making the rules on the medical. I haven't briefed up on that for a while, but they're not keeping that separate from the pharmacy at this time. But I anticipate in the future, we'll probably go there. But they are developing rules to regulate the quality, strengths and things, but still, that's in the early phases.
And I briefly talked about ex post facto law. And I know you're doing the right thing. Because, you know, if for example, if a local government entity makes it legal to manufacture and sell marijuana, and then later on, new council members or commissioners decide, well, we're having problems here, and pass an ordinance to make it illegal, then ex post facto falls into place. In other words, you can't make illegal which was once legal. And San Francisco did it by running out their last gun shop. But the thing is, I'm a Federalist and a Constitutionalist, and a Federalist believes in states' rights. But I'm also a Constitutionalist, where if you did something like that, I would say that you should be subject to a lawsuit for just compensation. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You could really find yourself in a predicament. So I think this is the best way to go. You know, whether the county votes for or against, that's out of our control. But I'm truly hoping that they'll vote for this ordinance.
As I said earlier this morning, if you put this out to a vote, and whichever way it goes, county commissioners cannot contradict that without going back out to a vote.
Right, that's good.
So, thank you, Mike. I'm not cutting you off there, Mike. You got everything properly you wanted to? And we have a copy of the letter for the record. And just a second, ma'am, and we'll get to you.
I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
All right.
I realised there was barely anybody here, so I thought it would be better just to
All right.
come back. When I have my letter, I'll just read you a bit onto
We
it.
gave it
Oh,
for,
oh no, you haven't started writing it, have you?
Oh, no, no.
Good. I realised that it's rather inflammatory. But basically, I have a headache, that's why I'm being stretched. I agree with that gentleman, and I just wanted to let you know that I came up from Nevada County in California, which is literally drenched in pot roars and problems. I'll try and read a few bits out of this letter. I went to see my doctor up here, and I couldn't stop thinking about, because she and I are in agreement about the pot thing, especially with the Indian reservation down the road. I actually do smoke marijuana, medical marijuana for migraines, but I see what has happened in the abuse of that herb. And my biggest sadness is that when I heard out that Lakeview was going to get a lot of greenhouses and some people from Oakland, which is the epicenter of the pot industry in America, I was very sad because Lakeview, I love Lakeview basically. So my biggest sadness is that once Dear Lakeview opens the door, it will experience more than one group of large-scale pot growers fires. There are organised groups of less than lawful characters that scout every possible avenue and angle to grow marijuana for huge profits. These large-scale pot growers and their backers are not only very rich, they are also among the toughest and cunningly ingenious people out there. They have fought adversity for decades and have learned to take advantage of and then flout every rule and regulation while looking innocent as lambs during that process. The laws that have been created during the time I've been in my county in California have been ignored wholesale. They have gone from town, county, state to federal levels and ended up as an ordinance issue as nothing has worked. The ordinance has not worked either. The number of people that have become growers has grown, in fact, in my county. It is so huge and is on such a large scale that it is impossible to control even a small percentage of what is being grown. What I'm saying is that despite all the comforting rules, barcodes and each plant being tracked, that Oregon State will enact, I don't see it happening like that. How many people will it take to enforce that alone? The expense of enforcing this. What the people of Lakeview will be dealing with are, as said, the large-scale, toughest, most adversity-ready folk you will come across, due to the decades of evading every rule there is. And they will open a pot sales store in town. It will help them as it will serve as a distraction to what will really be going on a big scale, re-shipping pots out. Betting a lot of it will go to places you never even dreamed of. Even in our pot-ridden county, Nevada County, California, all medical pot shops were closed down due to the problems caused. This is a similar story throughout California. I wrote this quite a while ago, well, about 8 weeks ago. As I write, Jerry Brown has a last-ditch piece of legislation on his desk he is about to sign, supported across party lines, from the California Congress to try and do something about the out-of-control pot industry. Here, meaning down there. Finding a good environment like Lakeview is manna from heaven to these big guys, and as said, many will want to follow. The reason is the profits are huge. The price is volatile, but for example, the wholesale market at this time is around $2,000 a pound. So I heard the 42nd group is putting up 20 greenhouses, is that correct?
We've heard that.
Okay, so if you have 15 of those 20 greenhouses in flower, let's say the other 5 will be for vegetating the plants, each greenhouse producing on average 50 pounds per cycle, per 12 weeks, you were looking at $1.5 million gross each time. I had to laugh when I saw the Lakeview Examiner account of the info meeting the 42nd group put on talking about growing tea, peppers and marijuana. Every grow store in my area has a few tomato and pepper plants outside on the street in an attempt to look like a normal gardening supply store. But once you go inside, it's all about marijuana cultivation. You have to be kidding me that these people will be tending tea plants with the money it will take to set these greenhouses up and run them. For a start, tea is a camellia genus that needs to grow in the ground and takes 4 years to even get one tea leaf out of it. It needs a tropical humid climate and acid soil and 50 inches in rainfall a year. So even if they nurse tea plants along in a greenhouse, it would take a lot of humidity and water to even harvest after 4 years. Also saw that hemp will be grown. You need a lot of land to grow enough hemp to make a profit and a lot of water also. Oakland, I already touched on that. So the people from Oakland that have created a tawdry place down there, which is full of people darting in and out of doorways and everything else, and is patrolled heavily by the police, have come up here to lovely Lakeview. And it just basically breaks my heart to think that Lakeview might be ruined by this situation. Pot is a labour intensive crop. Each time say they get between 500 and 750 pounds a pot each time they have one of those cycles every 12 weeks. You will need a small army to buck it down and trim it, prepare it for sale and shipment to its destination. These people might stay above board, but if you have people that come here and grow illegally, it's getting shipped to places like the Middle East, to China, to Hawaii. It's going everywhere. So, regardless of how many local people can be hired, there will most likely be an influx of migrants that are attracted by Lakeview's being one of the few places out here that will allow pot to be grown on a large scale. I'm not talking about small people that want to grow a few plants and harvest it and just use it for their own personal use, which is fine with me. I'm talking about people that come in and wreck everything. So we have in our county a lot of migrants come in every year, and we have problems with crime, and it's also a burden on the community's resources because a lot of them don't have a home and they bring their dogs, and we have shelters full of pit bulls, and you know, it's just it's basically out of control. I could go on, but the problem.
If you don't mind, can I ask a question?
Yes, certainly.
So I don't forget it. You talked about the people that come in, the migrant workers and all that. Have you seen anything in your county of, in the juvenile world, gangs or anything that follows this?
There's a lot of problems we have with children. I was getting to that at the very end, actually.
Okay, I'm sorry to
No,
interrupt.
don't worry. I wrote this because I really didn't want to stick my head above the parapet, but I felt so strongly about Lakeview getting in this mire because of what I know from the people that are in my county, that I had to come up here and say something. I drove up here to do this, but then I got very nervous when I walked in here.
No, this is wonderful, and I would like to ask you a quick question
Yes.
before you go on.
I'm going to get in so much trouble.
I don't, no, I appreciate you sharing your feelings. This is very enlightening. And as I was mentioning to Mike Getty, who just got through testifying, I think it's important because of your love of Lakeview, and this is my personal opinion, not as a commissioner, that if you can some way share that with the town of Lakeview, because the county officials here, regardless if we end up adopting this ordinance to ban it or to opt out, we have no control over the local jurisdiction of where you're concerned this is possibly going to happen. The town currently has said, through ordinance, they're not opting out. But they do have until the 27th of December, at least for what the legislature provided all of us with the House bill that did that, to opt out. And whether we put it to a vote of the people, not us, but whether they put it to a vote of the people, or they just totally opt out with no vote. But my whole point is, this is information they need to hear.
Exactly. I mean, I work with, well, you know, it's very difficult for me because I do actually grow pot, but for myself, I've had a medical marijuana recommendation for a long time. I would drink or anything like that, but because I suffer from migraines and I have an anxiety disorder as well, it helps me. But I absolutely had to draw the line and come up here. It took all my courage. I sent this to my doctor and asked her not to say it was from me, and here I'm sitting in front of you. I also sent her an article from my local newspaper, which I'll try and get back tomorrow and bring to you, so you can see what's happened to our town via the proper my local press. I'll at least get the date of the article so you can read it, regarding, I think it says, transplants a growing problem, talking about all the people that come into our county that have bought land from the Bay Area and things like that, and they rent it out to pot growers or they grow pot there themselves. We've got helicopters going overhead all the time. We've got people last year or the year before, actually someone got shot dead in a greenhouse because they were trying to steal some pot. We have wild car chasers. We have massive cultivation, and it didn't used to be like that, but it's gotten out of control. So, and brother, you're going to get people coming in. I was listening to that gentleman talking about how much they tax it. It doesn't matter because the profits are so huge millions of dollars potentially from just those 20 greenhouses a year. And you probably don't realize how much money you can get from pot when the growing season is in California is usually, it all gets harvested in October and November. So say in August and September, these are dry months. So you can get an awful lot more money for your pot during those months. So, you know, the prices are volatile, but if you just take that price that I said earlier of $2,000, let's just cut it in half. And they have those greenhouses going, and they make $7.75 million every 12 weeks if they're turning those greenhouses every 12 weeks. That's a lot of money. They don't mind paying the tax. Who knows what they're going to do? Who knows what plants are going to get grown? You won't know. Nobody is an expert. Or what I asked for in this letter was that the town, being not emotional but actually more practical and factual, is to get a drug forensic scientist, but someone that testifies at drug trials, and they go into a place and they raid a place and they see all these things that add up to somebody, you know, making money out of drugs. Just like a murder, they add up all the. If somebody could talk to the town like that and say, you know, what potential is for these greenhouses and how much money could come out of it, I think that people in this town would be repulsed by how much money they're going to be making. And there's people in Lakeview that don't have very much money. And I think it would tear the town apart because of the greed. That's what, you know, and there will be so many problems. It's really basically about the profits, because people, anyway, that's what I said here. Lakeview Town should at least undertake some due diligence of the impact of this situation and go to Oakland, see what's happening down there, talk to the police, sheriff departments, in towns in Colorado, in Boulder, or wherever they got all those shops, in Denver. Find out what it's like down there before they go in for this. This is on the route to Burning Man. I mean, it's nice to get the extra commerce, but is it the right way to get the extra commerce? You know, why do you think they've come up here? You can't put up 20 greenhouses in Oakland. You're not allowed to. Because, anyway, I think it's simply not enough to have a vote with no real education in this case. Because I think that people are going to be upset, and the people that are upset will be upset all the time. Like you, I'm sure, upset all the time, not just a little bit, but because they feel violated by the situation. Okay, and finally my worry is also that pot has become a very strong drug. There is no doubt that marijuana is very beneficial for many medicinal purposes, including the control of seizures in low THC strains. But it is addictive and harmful to so many people, which is their business. But for young people whose minds are not even fully mature, it bears thinking about carefully. For young people also, it has a charisma and can also be an easy moneymaker in sales. Many a young pair of my daughters from school here, down there, has fallen by the wayside and lost their real education in pursuit of that. Fittingly, that brings me to my final point about the situation at the local high school down there. My daughter was interning there last term for her teaching credentials. The marijuana problem is bad there. Students are smoking a lot of pot owing to our county being drenched in it. The school has to bring in the sheriff's department sniffer dogs at times and carries out random checks around the school. And that is with the full-time police officer on campus. So I just feel really, I was just talking to Gary McManus over on West Side, and he's not for it. I think a lot of people, you know, feel worried about it here. And that's really it I just wanted to say to you. Because it's upset me, but I was so cheered up when I saw that you were having this meeting that I thought I can't believe they're going for this. Literally, can't believe. I mean, I think it should be very difficult to get a hold of this pot.
Now, in California, tell me, it's recreational marijuana is not legalized
No,
yet.
it's just medicinal,
Just
but
medicinal.
it's a misdemeanor now to, if you get caught in a little, a joint or, limited amount of pot. So it's pretty much, I just think we've got enough things to worry about. It's a very strong drug.
Especially, as mentioned earlier, the young kids, it does affect
It does.
their
Does.
brain development
My-
and others.
So many, a young person had promised that I know in my daughter's peer group, it's gone. Because you get that flash of youth, you know how you do, and I seem to remember it. And you feel invincible, then all of a sudden you get to 30 and you realise that you've blown everything. for nothing. You're just an old pothead. So, I just wanted to come and say that because I just think I don't want to see Lakeview hurt like this.
Really appreciate your testimony.
I'm sorry I don't want to give my name, but I just
That's all right.
feel nervous that they'll come after me or something, because, but, I got this. Anyway, I just wanted to say about it, and if there's any, what I'll do is I'll try and find that newspaper article tomorrow, when I go to see the doctor, and I'll bring it over to you.
If you do, if you could bring it by 1:30, we're meeting in Paisley tomorrow
Absolutely.
at 3 and then again at 6
I
on
saw
this
that.
very subject.
Okay, I will get it, and then if I can't, I'll come and give you the link how to get
That's
on there.
perfect.
And I mean, I know the sheriff's down there because I work with animal control down there, so I can even get them to talk, if you wanna talk to somebody, you need to talk to, they need to do some due diligence. Because if it sounds too good to be true, it really genuinely is.
I got a couple of questions. It's not recreational use, it's not legal in California,
No,
but it's rampant anyway.
it's absolutely.
Here, the populace of Oregon has the recreation, so it's out there
Right,
for kids.
right.
Tell me how the medical marijuana, legal medical is governed in California.
It's similar to, it's not quite the same as the Omri one. You go and see a doctor, and then you aren't in touch with the state. That's the difference between, because I did have a medical marijuana permit from Oregon when I lived here in Lakeview a while back. But, I went back to my daughter had a baby, so I was bringing her the baby, but, that's the difference. You just get a recommendation from the doctor, and then you post it in your garden. And then the helicopters come over and they see it, or however they do it, and then they check your garden, and if they have so many complaints, they can't keep up with it basically, but if you're seriously out of ordinance, now it's become an ordinance, they tried everything, as I said, then the sheriff's department comes around and checks you. But
But there's no regulations on strength,
no, there's nothing like
quality,
that. There's
anything of
no
that nature.
well, of course, Jerry Brown has passed this legislation, which is kind of tied in with the 2016 vote to legalize it for recreational use in California. So the similar things are gonna happen. I mean, I don't know where it's gonna end, but I just don't want anything bad to happen to Lakeview, because I really love this town.
Appreciate that.
Well, and I totally agree with you, and I'm just gonna make another comment, just as a personal comment. I saw last night on TV, we're advertising, I'm so disgusted with it personally, just personally.
Yeah,
Commissioner's
it's
a whole
like-
different hat, but black cherry cheesecake
I know.
is how it's being advertised.
It's
How low
so,
can we go?
well, it's because it's all young gangbangers. I mean, what happened was, it seemed to me when I first came up to California in '99, it was much more of the old school hippie type dudes that were out there just growing their big old plants and whatnot. Then what happened was, to me, it seems to me, so a lot of young kids got into actually brokering it, and then they got into this, it's all about the marketing, always all about the marketing. These names, these used to be like Kush or Goo, things like that, but now they've got all these names, and it's so hip, but it isn't, because it's you know, it doesn't, it's rubbish, it's an
You
illusion.
said it all when you said greed.
Greed, it's the money,
But
the profits are
the mon-
huge.
There is not any other industry
No,
that we would tax that much and demand that much
but you
from
won't, because
to promote, because of, this is truly a cash crop.
it is, it
And-
grows on trees.
And as I said, thinking about this, and I'll go ahead and say it, a quote from me, I guess, if you invite the devil into your house, he will take over your home.
He will, and that is what's, and I feel exactly the same way, and I've said it in here, or now I'll expand a little bit, they'll come up here, it makes me sick, we've got these slick people coming up from Oakland, and it's like, they are coming up here and with light, they're so excited. Not only are they getting these, they're getting geothermal, I mean, it's like, they must be just, you know, they're just making a ton of money. I've heard of people that have estates, you know, all around on the Caribbean island, I mean, they're just loaded with money. People driving around my county, kids in BMWs, all dealing pot. And it's really, you can't tell, you won't know how much pot is being grown in this county, because it'll all disappear like ever so, like quicksilver.
So, we're-
Millions of dollars. I tell you, there was 15 greenhouses, £50 a piece. In the wholesale at 2,000, that's $1.5 million right there in 12 weeks.
my guess, and probably interacting further than we should during the hearing process, but my guess is there's so much money involved in this that big corporations will get involved. In the next 2 to 5 years, there will be a crash for a lot of people that's invested in this because of there's that much money.
I know,
It becomes a
saturated. But the thing, it goes up in smoke. That's the thing. It's like, whenever you finish one, you can grow and add another one. It's not like buying a diamond, or, it's like, you can grow it, an idiot can grow this stuff.
You would think that Philip Morris's and the big tobacco companies would probably get involved at some point. and
Well, I hear you on that.
Take over the industry.
I think that, I think I read somewhere in the California one that they're not going to, that they're going to try a way to try and, as many licenses as possible or something are going to be issued. I can't remember exactly what it said. But anyway, I think it's the wrong road. It's not a good direction. And I think that a lot of people, they haven't classified it yet on the federal level, but I think that, I just find it astounding. I find it mind-boggling. It should be really hard to get a hold of. Because, and like you say, unless there can be some, if you can get rid of the money that is made, you can make some sanity out of this. But with the profit, the huge, you can't, you know, huge profits that can be made. I mean, even that fellow Sanjay Gupta on CNN got into it. All these programs on CNN about pot, and he's pushing pot, saying it's great, it cures seizures. Then you come to find out he's on the board of this cannabis company, trying to, you know, develop pot for you know, so it's like greed.
Yep.
It's greed been around since civilization,
Yeah.
whether it's the American pharmaceutical company, the petroleum
Right.
companies, the tobacco company, it's all the same.
Yeah, but this is a drug that is strong. It's not just, it's not like oil. It's, the drug itself is destructive. It's addictive. I don't care what anybody says. It's not, you're not talking about oil. You're talking, I know you know, they say, oh, you don't never have fights or crash on marijuana. Well, most people that smoke marijuana also drink, take pills, do all kinds of things, you know. It all mixes. So to me, if there are two things, it's the ruination of your life and the greed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming back.
I'm sorry, I realised I should come back, so I thought, well, if that's only two people here, I better come back. Because if there's a vote, like how many people do you need to put the ordinance on, I need to come back and be one of the people that says you need to have the ordinance to say
We've
no.
actually, just for information, we've had quite a few folks attend our meetings, but today is the first official day that we've had hearings
Oh, right,
on
okay.
the ordinance that we did approve, so
Oh, good.
we're a little surprised, I believe, that there weren't more folks here
I'm
tonight.
amazed that people aren't more upset about it, because I'm upset and I live 320 miles away.
Yeah.
Tomorrow may be a whole different,
I hope so. Well, Paisley's, you know, a small community, well, I hope somebody shows up there.
well, we're such a large county that North Lake, that's a central place for them to not travel as far as down here. It's only 60 miles instead of 103.
Oh, okay then.
So
that can
we
be-
we sort of anticipate that North Lake County will probably come out, and I anticipate there will be pro marijuana.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, there will be, and that's one of the things about Paisley, it too is incorporated, I live there.
Right,
It's an incorporated community, it's going to make its own ruling on this.
right.
But on the north end of the county, it's an unincorporated, fairly sizable population when you look at all of Lake County
Right.
population. And they feel like this is going to really affect them, those that are in favor of the marijuana, because they don't have a local jurisdiction to make a
Right.
different decision than this board might make.
Okay,
So-
they're gonna-
They're a little bit, their mindset's a little different, those that favor it. They don't feel like they have an option if we choose to adopt.
But they can
Ordinance
grow
112.
but they can still grow.
Oh, yeah,
their own plants.
Yeah, there's all sorts of
It's like,
things.
what is this? Why? That's what makes me suspicious. Because it's like you can grow your plants.
Well, there's people up there, I won't speak for the people, but they've been in our meetings that intend to have a business of it. Money, cash crops, sell it in their stores. It's all over the place. And we're trying as a board to stay in our lane, our decision space. And this is what, this testimony is very helpful, I think, in leading us to whether or not we adopt ordinance 112.
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
Please, I mean, the only final, again, I'll bring the newspaper article in tomorrow if I can, otherwise I'll point you to the place to find it, or I'll find it at the library here. It's not gonna work out the way people think it is. It's just gonna be it's gonna be a hassle. It's gonna cost Lakeview a lot of money, and I can't believe that they are going for it in this town. So, anyway, I'll leave it.
Mr. Yeti, you raised your hand, sir?
I was just gonna say, I somewhat agree with you about the corporations taking over the industry, but I really believe that there's a good possibility that organized crime will
Goes without saying, all
be
the
that
gangs.
corporation. And we won't know it because they go through a series of pseudo corporations and you can't track them.
Exactly, they're gonna get beat, the Harry Winston to it, whoever he is, because, they already got it all set up. They've got it all set up. They have smooth operations.
Yep.
So, and who knows, they might even, go ahead. I just
Thank
want
you very
to,
much.
at least
Thank you.
it would be on my conscience if I didn't come in and say something.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
thank you.
I believe that,
I'll get that. Where will you be tomorrow so I can bring you that?
We'll be here,
we'll be
Right.
here,
down the hallway here.
right here, our office of administrative assistant Denise, right over here, is her first office. You can get that information to her.
All right.
She'll distribute to us.
I
And your name
Be-
was,
be
I'm not
open.
gonna give you, I'm just
and your,
scared.
Savannah is your name?
Yes, but I don't want to.
But we'll be here until roughly 1:30,
Savannah.
then we won't be here.
Oh, don't worry, I've got to go back down there. I only came up to come here and to pick up some hay for my horses. So, lovely Lakeview hay, Goose Lake hay.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Savannah.
Good luck. Hope you win.
Okay, at 3 minutes to 7, I'm going to close the meeting. The hearing will be continued till 3:10 tomorrow and at 6 tomorrow night.